3 terrifying true stories of haunted last days of school, unexplained secrets revealed. Jasmine paced the empty halls of Maplewood High, the echo of her sneakers ringing against the cracked tiles. A weight hung in the air, a thick, oppressive silence that sent chills down her spine. She could hear the whispers, the chilling rustle of something unseen. She shivered, her heart racing as shadows flickered at the edges of her vision. Was it just her imagination? Or was something in the school watching her? The excitement of graduation felt so distant, so easily overshadowed by an underlying dread pulsing through these familiar walls. As the last days of school crept closer, Jasmine felt an unsettling sense of foreboding. Late-night study sessions turned into haunting encounters. The quiet classrooms, once her second home, felt alive with whispers from the unseen. She could swear she heard her name echoing softly, the voice laced with a sinister sweetness that made her stomach churn. Flickering lights seemed to dim and brighten with a mind of their own, casting eerie shadows that danced around her like specters. Every corner held a secret, and she felt drawn into a dark history embedded deep within the school, stories of rituals and loss, woven into the fabric of Maplewood itself. Ethan, a middle schooler brimming with dreams of baseball, now found himself gripped by an uncanny terror. His friends had started disappearing, one by one, their final moments seen around the old gym, a decaying relic of glory. Each time he set foot closer to its cracked doors, he felt a creeping dread crawl up his spine. Could it be the building itself, with its whispers and creaks, was consuming them? The coach, once a figure of strength and hope, now loomed like a dark specter over him, shrouded in an unknown malevolence. Doubt slithered in his mind. Could he trust anyone, the coach who smiled so wide or the friends who promised to always stand by him? Emily watched her once kind teacher transform, warmth giving way to chilling unpredictability. The rumor mill buzzed with sickening tales of failed field trips, of students lost in the woods to forces that demanded tribute. Her best friend vanished just days before they were due to go. Panic gripped Emily as she recalled the last time she saw her, laughing under the sun. Now, all she felt was the cold grip of fear. As she began to probe deeper, she wrestled with local legends and caught glimpses of a shadowy figure lurking among the trees, forging an uneasy alliance between reality and nightmare. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The final days weighed heavily on the entire town like an impending storm. Families moved as if nothing had changed, completely oblivious to the sinister connections snaking under the surface of their idyllic lives. Jasmine darted through the halls, piecing together something dark as Ethan fumbled his way through the ghosts of friendship, and Emily fought her own haunting tales. Each revelation drew them closer to an undeniable truth: the danger they faced was not supernatural, but rooted in betrayal and darkness lingering in the hearts of those meant to safeguard them. In a chilling moment of clarity, Jasmine uncovered the horrifying past that gripped her school. Ethan caught a glimpse of his coach's true nature, and Emily felt the ice-cold stare of her teacher pricking at her mind. As the shadows thickened and the whispers crescendoed into maddening cries, the three found themselves entwined in a web of horror that threatened to claim them all. United in their fear, they knew the chilling legacy of Maplewood was all around them. Could they escape in time, or would they become the latest victims of the darkness lurking in their own backyard? The clock ticked ominously as Jasmine, Ethan, and Emily gathered in the old library, the air stifling with unspoken tension. Dust particles danced in the dim light, caught in the beams filtering through the grimy windows. Jasmine's hands trembled as she set down an ancient yearbook, pages yellowed and brittle. The faded smiles of graduates long gone stared back at them, but something was off. Something twisted lurked within those photographs. What if the stories are true? Jasmine whispered, her voice cracking. What if the past is coming back for us? Ethan bit his lip, glancing nervously over his shoulder. We need to figure out what happened here. Look at this place, it feels alive. A chill crept up Emily's spine. She swore she could feel eyes watching them from the darkened corners. But how? We don't even know where to start. Before anyone could answer, the sound of shuffling echoed from the stacks, causing them all to jump. Emily instinctively grabbed Jasmine's arm, her breath hitching. "Did you hear that?" "Yeah," Ethan whispered, his heart racing. He edged toward the sound, determination mingling with terror. "We need to know if we're alone." As he stepped cautiously into the aisle, the bookcases loomed above him like silent sentinels. He reached out, fingers brushing against the spines of forgotten tales. Suddenly, one of the shelves creaked, and a heavy book fell to the ground with a thud that shattered the silence. "Ethan! Be careful!" Jasmine's voice rose in panic as the darkened shadows seemed to thicken around them. That he picked up the book and stared at the cover, a title that made his heart leap, The Secrets of Maplewood. Shivers shot down his back. It was one of those stories, tales of students who never made it out, rites performed in the dead of night. He opened it slowly, revealing pages filled with disturbing illustrations and passages about ancient rituals that claimed lives every few decades. "We have to get out of here," Emily exclaimed, glancing nervously towards the door. "This is too much. I don't like this." "Wait," Ethan said, his voice firm yet tremulous. "There might be something in here that can help us understand what is going on. We need to uncover what happened to them." But with that, the atmosphere shifted. The laughter of children echoed in the distance, fading in and out like haunting whispers. Jasmine felt her heart pound against her rib cage. "That sounds wrong." Suddenly, a shadow flickered across the window, quickly engulfing the room in a crushing darkness. The lights flickered, and panic set in. "Get back!" Jasmine shouted, pulling Emily toward the door. The whispers sharpened into piercing cries, the shadows morphed, taking form. They blurred together, melding into the shapes of students who had vanished, their eyes wide with horror. Jasmine slammed the book shut as their wails crescendoed around them. "We have to leave now," she screamed, the weight of fear anchoring her in place. Just as they regained their footing, the door creaked open on its own. A figure stepped into the doorway, poised against the fading light. It was the coach, leaning casually against the frame, a sinister smile plastered across his face. "Looking for something, kids?" he said, his voice low and menacing. The trio froze, eyes widening in fear. The room felt as if it were closing in, every shadow stretching towards them, intent on pulling them under. "What do you want?" Ethan croaked, though he already knew the answer. A slow, chilling laugh echoed through the library, resonating with the shadows that swirled, tightening their grip. And with that laughter hanging in the air like a death knell, the answer became all too clear: the darkness had come to claim them. As the reality of their situation set in, Emily gasped, "What are we going to do?" And before they could react, the darkness closed in again, swallowing their voices whole as the echoes of laughter twisted into screams. But what were those screams meant to say? The answer lingered just out of reach, a cursed secret hiding behind haunted eyes. The coach stepped forward, the darkness clinging to him like a second skin. Jasmine felt a frigid sweat trickle down her spine. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, his smile widening unnaturally, revealing teeth that looked eerily sharp in the dim light. Ethan took a hesitant step back, heart pounding in his throat. We just wanted to know what happened to the students." His voice trembled, cracking under the pressure of the ominous atmosphere. The coach let out another sinister laugh, echoing off the walls. "The students? Oh, they're here, they're always here." He waved a hand, as if inviting them to see. A cold gust of wind swept through the library, carrying whispers that crawled under their skin. Emily clutched Jasmine tighter, her face pale as she took in their surroundings. Shadows danced and writhed, taking form that felt all too familiar. The faces of lost students pressed against a fogged barrier between life and death, mouths moving silently, screaming for release. "No!" Jasmine cried desperately, tearing her gaze from the phantoms. We need to escape. The coach's eyes glinted with a malice that sent her heart racing. Escape? There's no escape from the past, little girl. You're already part of it now. His voice dropped to a chilling whisper, sending chills down her spine. You've awakened them. A dark wave surged from the coach, pushing Jasmine and her friends back. Books flew from the shelves, pages fluttering, filling the air like confetti in a funeral. The laughter grew louder, transforming into words that echoed in unison. Join us. Ethan shouted, No. We refuse. But his defiance was lost in the cacophony. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness, then flickering back to life, but this time the shadows had shifted. They were closer, pressing in, a tide of spirits seeking vengeance. Names on the yearbook pages flashed in the students' ghostly faces, a morbid reflection of their tormented existence. Emily's mind raced. What do we do? We need a plan. Her voice was a thin edge above the chaos. But words fled them as the laughter morphed into guttural cries. The coach stepped forward, drawing closer, shadows spiraling around him, hungrily snapping at the edges of their sanity. You're in their domain now. They'll never let you leave. The realization hit them like a cold slap. They were standing on the precipice of a dark nightmare. Jasmine's throat went dry. She looked at her friends, desperation in her eyes. We have to fight back. We can't give in. Ethan nodded, determination hardening his features. We can't let them win. We have to remember who we are. The shadows surged, swirling around them like a storm. But Jasmine called upon the flicker of hope amid the terror. Remember the stories. There might be a way to get rid of them. As if activated by her words, the book Ethan had dropped lay half open on the floor, its pages fluttering as if alive. A gust of wind pushed it into Emily's grasp. Here. This must hold the key. But before she could read, the shadows lunged at them, a dark wave of rage. Jasmine felt the energy shift, something primal stirred within her. Fight! She screamed, and they all grabbed the book, the words spilling forth. But would the words protect them or seal their fate? With the darkness closing in, Jasmine's heart raced as she focused on the book once more. Could it truly save them, or were they merely tying their fate to an even more horrific end? The coach's laughter boomed, drowning out their thoughts. You can't escape the secrets that bind you here. And just as Emily read the first line aloud, the shadows flared brighter, a chilling howl resonating through the library. The pages began to glow, flickering with the power of hidden truths, but would unveiling those truths be the key to their survival, or would it unearth evils they were unprepared to face? The shadows thrashed violently, and as everything spiraled, Jasmine felt a searing rush of fear and clarity. They were out of time. Without knowing what awaited them, she braced herself. Would they break free? Or would the darkness claim them forever, just like the students before? The answer loomed closer, but it hung like a weight in the air, thick with impending doom. And in that harrowing moment, one thought echoed loudly: they were not alone. What horrors would be unleashed by the secrets of Maplewood? The moment the book's glow intensified, the shadows shrieked, a dissonant chorus as if the world split apart at the seams. Jasmine felt her grip tighten around the book as icy hands brushed against her legs. Each icy finger sent jolts of terror shooting through her. The words being read by Emily began to swirl in the air, forming twisted narratives that unraveled the history of the specters trapped within the library. They sought justice for the wrongs done to them. Stop! Jasmine screamed, but Emily's voice had a hold on her, drawn by the dark enchantment in the air. The shadowy forms closed in, faces twisted in fury and despair, their eyes hollow yet pleading. Ethan stepped forward, the resolve in him flaring. We need to rewrite this story. We can't let them use the book against us. It's not just any book. Emily shouted over the chaos, eyes wild. It's telling their stories. As she read on, the shadows writhed like serpents. Jasmine's heart raced. Each name named in the text cried out as if the entire room pulsed with their pain. The library walls seemed to close in, suffocating them with the weight of their tortured histories. A figure broke through the darkness, a shadow with a familiar face. Trevor. Jasmine gasped, recognizing the local boy who had vanished last year. His expression was a harrowing blend of sadness and rage, eyes pleading for release. "What do you want?" she stammered, forcing the words through raw fear. He pointed at the book, and the wind picked up violently. Pages fluttered like frightened birds, whipping past them. The coach's laughter was now a twisted melody, mocking, reverberating off the shelves. They want their story told. But the truth always comes with a price. The boundaries of reality blurred as Trevor's pleas merged with the ghostly cries of his peers. It was a fragile balance, a tightrope walk between condemning the living and liberating the dead. Jasmine could feel the pressure mounting, a ticking clock resonating in her skull. "Fight!" she yelled, rallying her friends. "If we complete the story, the ghosts can find peace." Ethan nodded, urgency igniting in his expression. "We need to confront the truth that's where their power lies." Emily's hands shook as she turned the pages. With renewed strength, she shouted the next name. "Samantha Johnson." The room quaked, and the shadows surged, thrashing wildly. Jasmine watched as Samantha appeared, vibrant but tinged with sorrow, like a spirit barely tethered to life. "No. Not again!" Samantha cried, her voice cracking. "They did this to us. Help us remember." "And what then?" A new voice snickered from the dark, a warped echo of the coach, who seemed to grow stronger with each name invoked. "You think you can alter fate? You're only digging your graves even deeper." The tension thickened, suffocating Jasmine. The shadows began to swirl faster, encircling them like a cyclone of anguish. Emily's reading faltered as fear clawed at her throat and the candles flickered ominously, illuminating twisted faces contorting in agony. "We need to finish what we started," yelled Ethan, pushing forward. "Yes," Jasmine shouted, feeling a surge of defiance. "We will save you all." As Emily continued to read aloud, the words flowed like a torrent. One by one, the names poured forth like a cascade of dammed waters. Wails of anguish transformed into muffled sobs as shadows screamed, threatening to envelop them completely. Just when the dim light fought to stay alive, a blinding flash erupted from the book. Jasmine felt a warmth, then an overwhelming chill that washed over her. The world around them shifted, flickering between reality and nightmares. "Let them see!" cried Trevor, and with those words, a wave of light burst forth from the book, illuminating the hollow eyes of the shadows. But what truth lay within? What horrors slumbered that might awaken if they completed the tale? The air crackled with suspense, as the shadows shimmered, waiting for the final line to be uttered. And just as Jasmine took a breath to finish the story, she felt the impact of unseen force pulling her backward, drowning her among the voices that longed to be remembered. In the suffocating darkness, where hope waned, a haunting thought rang clear: what if revealing their truth awakened something else entirely? What dark force lay in wait, ready to claim them all? As the shadows swirled closer, Jasmine struggled to breathe, her heart pounding like a drum in the stillness of the vortex. The whispers surrounded her like a storm, filled with despair and cries that tore at her soul. "Let us in," they pleaded, their voices overlapping, drenched in agony. Fear gripped her heart, squeezing tighter with each pulse of light from the book. "Finish it, Emily," she shouted, but her voice barely broke through the cacophony. Emily's fingers trembled on the pages, her face pale and drawn, as if every name extracted a toll on her very being. Shadows writhed around her, desperate to escape their confines, their reach stretching further. "Tell me their story. We have to tell it," Ethan urged, stepping closer, but even he felt the oppressive weight of their pain. His breath was rapid, eyes darting toward each shadow with growing panic as they seemed to respond to his words. "Listen to me." Trevor's voice broke through like a piercing light cutting through fog. You can change this. You can help us. Just tell them how we. But something shifted in the air, dark and thick as tar, swirling with malevolence. They think they can alter what has been done. The warped voice of the coach echoed, low and full of a sinister amusement. They think they can rewrite their fate. Idiots. Jasmine's grip on the book tightened, her fingers shaking as the shadows rose defiantly, hungry for vengeance. Why won't you listen? They need peace. She screamed, desperation bubbling over. But the shadows only roared in anger, their cries harmonizing into a grotesque symphony. Suddenly, the room began to distort. Books fell from their shelves with crashes that shook the ground, and the lights flickered ominously, illuminating the spiraling tendrils of darkness that threatened to close in around them. Jasmine felt her legs go weak as an overwhelming force slammed against her. Jasmine! Emily cried, panic relentless in her spreading voice. She stumbled backward, losing her place in the text. All the energy surged forward, names and tales blurred into a frantic chaos, spilling into the air like water flooding a dam. Stop, you have to keep reading. Ethan shouted. The urgency in his voice felt like a tether, holding Jasmine to reality as those scenic portraits of pain and despair began to swarm once more. She grounded herself, taking one deliberate breath. There was no choice. Their lives were at stake. Emily, please. Just read. Jasmine yelled, the dark encroaching shadows making her voice teeter on the edge of a scream. With shaking hands, Emily found her place, her eyes widening with every word that escaped her lips. Jason Miller. She cried, and a fresh shadow erupted into the room, face twisted in agony, trapped between two worlds. No. Jason howled, anguished. Not my truth. I am not a monster, but a victim. Each name plunged deeper into their collective horror. The memories deepened every agony. These weren't just names, these were lives frayed at the edges, desperate to be stitched back together. Shadows flickered like anxious flames, eager to reach out to their storytellers. Yet, with each moment of revelation, the specter of the coach grew more powerful, his laughter slicing through the air, a warped anthem of torment. Shadows thickened with every name spoken, their cries now rising in desperation, clawing at the living for deliverance, but his power pulsed like a heartbeat. Just as Jasmine feared they could drown in a tide of despair, she turned toward Trevor, the one spirit who had once worn a smile, now only anguish in his eyes. We can't leave you. She whispered fiercely. We will fight. The light from the book began to flicker, waning against the shadow's turmoil. Jasmine felt her spirit lifting even as fear crept closer. We're not done. Tell us everything. But as Emily read the next name, a great rending noise erupted, a sound of darkness breaking through the fabric of their world. The shadows surged with newfound strength. Jasmine's heart raced as she heard a rush of whispers, more frantic now. You can't save us. You won't survive. And then. A powerful roar rattled the library's very foundations, sending a shudder of terror through every soul present. Stars from the spectral remnants burst in flashes, a dazzling display of horror and promise just before everything fell dark, the weight of fate shifting what hope was left. What further horrors resided in the depths of their past? As silence fell heavy, Jasmine's heart sank. Fear constricted her throat like a vice. What lurked beyond that darkness? And at what cost would the truth come, if it ever would? Jasmine's mind raced. The darkness felt alive, swallowing the air around them, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. Panic surged through her veins, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last, mingling with the dissonant chaos surrounding them. Emily's face, pale and drawn, flickered in the fleeting light like a candle on the verge of blowing out. Emily, keep reading. Ethan urged, his voice tinged with desperation, but the flickering light seemed duller now, as if it, too, was losing hope. The shadows quaked violently, limbs twisting and contorting, their cries blending into a dreadful wail. You think this will help? A voice thundered from the depths of the gloom. You're only fueling the fire. Before they could respond, tendrils of darkness lashed out, snaking toward them like hungry serpents. Jasmine's instincts kicked in. "We have to move," she gasped, looking to Trevor for guidance. The anguish radiating from him was palpable. They were all just vessels in this nightmare, each carrying a burden not their own. "Do you really think they want to come for you?" Trevor's voice trembled, fear clawing at his throat. "You have no idea what kind of rage you're unleashing." Suddenly, the air thickened, weighed down by a suffocating presence. Jasmine could feel it, crawling across her skin like icy fingers. "We can't stop," she replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. "We have to give them a chance." With every word Emily read, those words ricocheted through the darkness, each syllable awakening memories too painful to bear. "Jenna Walker," she stammered, the words barely escaping her lips. A chilling howl erupted, and a new shadow materialized, writhing with torment. "Did you think I would be forgotten?" Jenna screamed, her voice echoing through time, anguished and unrecognizable. "I'll never rest. Not in this wretched place." The shadows shrieked in response, an orchestra of suffering drowning out their cries for mercy. Jasmine stepped closer to Emily, trying to shield her from the chaos. "Keep going," she urged, though she could feel her strength waning. The shadows were alive, hungry, and their desperation was growing. But the foreboding presence of the coach loomed larger now, every ounce of fear he had instilled in life churning within the spectral chaos. "You think they deserve your pity?" he spat, voice seeping through the cracks in their resolve. "They are just ghosts of their own making." "No!" Jasmine screamed, defiance rising within her. "You're lying." The shadows writhed again, pushing back against her words as if refusing to believe. "You're not in control anymore." Emily stumbled, the light of the book flickering dangerously, but Jasmine continued, her voice rising above the swirling shadows. "You're trapped in this cycle of pain. You need to find peace." "Peace?" Jenna's laughter was harsh, jarring against the backdrop of despair. "There's no peace for us. Not while he's here." Suddenly, a torrential rush of wind crashed through the room, sending books flying and scattering papers like confetti. The fabric of reality seemed to tear, revealing glimpses of otherworldly horrors hovering just beyond reach. The floor trembled, and Jasmine felt her legs buckle beneath her. "Make it stop!" Emily cried, panic sending tremors through her voice. Jasmine clawed her way forward, breath ragged. "We will not let you fall into darkness," she shouted, rallying whatever strength she had left. Each name was a battlefield, each revelation a fight for survival. "Read. We need to understand." As Emily pushed through the next name, a different tone cut through. "Mason Gray," she whispered, and a shadow leapt forward, rage igniting like wildfire. "Fools!" Mason screeched, pierced by the light's promise. "You think mere words can save you? You'll suffer as we have." The surge created a violent backlash that sent Jasmine sprawling against the shelves. The whispers grew deafening. "You'll never escape." They howled in unison, their forms blurring at the edges, faces twisting in shared grief and fury. With the library spiraling into chaos, Jasmine felt the weight of despair crash over her like a wave. Breaths were hard to come by, panic clawing at her throat as she struggled to her feet. The boundaries of their haunting frayed. "This is just the beginning," the coach sneered from the shadows, a malevolent grin splitting his features. "You can't unravel what has become of them." As darkness surged once more, Jasmine realized the shadows pulsed with intent, seeking something far greater than mere acknowledgement. What secret lay hidden within those walls, and what would it take to break the curse? Fear gripped them tighter than before, wrapping around their hearts like a vice. Each moment of revelation was a step deeper into their doom. Just as Jasmine opened her mouth to shout one last plea, the ground beneath them trembled, threatening to shatter. What unspeakable nightmare awaited them with each name that remained unspoken? The ground rattled violently, splintering the air with a low, ominous growl. Jasmine braced herself against a nearby shelf, desperate for something solid as the room swirled in chaos. Shadows writhed, their forms merging and splitting like water running through a sieve. Each scream began to echo back from the depths, sending chills spiraling down her spine. "Keep going, Emily," she shouted, her throat raw with urgency. The last name rang out like a death knell. "We need to get through this." Emily's eyes darted nervously as she hovered over the book, its pages rattling like dry leaves in a storm. I don't know how much more I can take." Her voice faltered. Each syllable felt like an act of defiance against the dark forces descending upon them. "Do it," Ethan urged, his face flushed with fear. "For Jenna. For Mason. We have to finish this." The shadows rippled with dark energy, and Jasmine felt their eyes on her, thousands of them, each pair hungry, each teeming with a rage that felt familiar yet alien. It was as if the entire room pulsed in rhythm with their despair, and it struck her like a blow to the chest. "Do you still think reading will save you?" The echoes boomed, surrounding them like a thick fog. "These names, these tales, they will become your epitaph." "No. You don't get to decide that," Jasmine countered, her heart racing. She noticed a flicker of resolve in Trevor's eyes. "Remember what we're doing. They need us to hear them." Just as Emily pressed her trembling fingers onto the page again, the shadows shifted as they sensed the surge of energy, the desperate hope that had begun to coalesce among the group. "Your fight is in vain." Mason's throat tore with laughter, ripping through the chorus of shadows. "You're playing with forces far beyond your comprehension." But Jasmine was convinced. Each name they uncovered was another thread in the tapestry. "Let us go, Emily." "Who's next?" "Tessa Arnold." Emily's voice shook as she read, and suddenly, a new wave of darkness spilled from the book, coalescing into a figure that stood taller and more defiant than the rest. Tessa's eyes glowed like embers in the smoke, filled with anger and sorrow. "You think you can unveil my story? You'll only awaken half of the truth." "No. We won't let you drag us down," Trevor shouted, stepping forward. "We are not afraid of you." With that declaration, the shadows writhed again, as if rattled by the stake of courage. But Tessa's form twisted, contorting into anguished laughter. "Fear? You should be afraid. What waits in the dark has no mercy." In that instant, the library felt alive like an ominous beast. The very ground beneath their feet vibrated as the air crackled with supernatural energy. It was a surge of rage, painful and raw, and Jasmine could feel the shadows reaching for her, tendrils of darkness scraping against her skin. "Make it stop!" Emily cried again, clenching the book tightly. Jasmine struggled to keep her balance, choking on the heavy, acrid air filled with the scent of despair. "It's not about stopping. It's about breaking free," Jasmine shouted, adrenaline coursing through her body. "Don't you see? Each name tells us what they lost. We fight for them." But as Emily opened her mouth to voice the next name, a deafening roar erupted from the shadows. The cries grew louder, a disharmony of torment echoing around them. "You don't know what you're dealing with. This is your last chance. Leave or suffer." Tremors rocketed up through the floor, knocking Jasmine back against a wall. The lights flickered wildly, half the room consumed by darkness, half by the pale glow from the book. "Trevor, hold on to me," she yelled, grasping for his hand as the shadows writhed ever closer. A surge of panic twisted her guts as she realized they were losing their grip. "What will it take?" he asked, his voice almost swallowed by the noise. "How do we make them listen?" "By listening to every word," Jasmine shouted, fighting against the growing despair. She squeezed Emily's shoulder. "You can do this. Read, please. Name them all, every single one." As Emily flipped the next page, the air shifted again, coiling around them like a snare. "You will regret it if you do." The whispers hissed back, wrapping around her, squeezing, and in that moment of tension, a name echoed loud and clear. But it wasn't just another name. It was something darker, something that changed everything. Jasper Green. The name hung in the air, pregnant with ominous possibility. The shadows froze, a silence sweeping over them like a tide. What had they awakened now? The stillness was deafening. Jasmine could feel every heartbeat echo in her ears, dread curling in her stomach. The shadows trembled, their intensity palpable as the name sank like a stone into the depths of time. Jasper Green. A name wrapped in darkness, awaited their response. "What did you just say?" Trevor breathed, his eyes wide, shimmering with disbelief. Emily blinked rapidly, her fingers frozen above the page. I don't know. I didn't want to read it." Panic flooded her voice. It felt wrong. An unsettling chill filled the air. Jasmine's heartbeat quickened. Something was shifting, a cold energy surged, wrapping around them like tendrils of ice. It felt as if Jasper himself lingered just below the surface, watching, waiting for something to give. "Read it, Emily," Jasmine urged, her voice trembling mildly but firm. "We need to know." "But what if it unleashes?" Trevor's voice trailed off, thick with dread. "Worry about that later." Ethan interjected, desperation piercing his tone. "We've come this far. We can't stop now." Gritting her teeth, Emily tore her gaze from the shadows swirling like smoke and focused on the page. "Jasper Green," she whispered, almost reverently, as if acknowledging a forgotten specter. Before the last syllable left her lips, the ground roared beneath them. A gaping maw opened in the floor, spewing dark mist that curled and lashed out like a serpent. Jasmine barely had time to react as black claws reached for them, sharp and merciless. "Get back!" Jasmine shouted. She shoved Emily and Trevor aside just as a claw grazed her arm, tearing through fabric and flesh. Pain shot through her, fire igniting in her veins. She stumbled, but adrenaline propelled her forward. "Jasmine!" Trevor's voice cracked with fear. "Don't look back!" she shouted as she spun to face the thickening darkness. "There's no stopping now." Oddly enough, as chaos erupted, the shadow that formed in the center of the room took shape, turning into the silhouette of a man. He hovered ominously, features obscured by darkness, but his voice cut through the pulsating dread. "You dare disturb my name? You offer me life again? Who are you?" Emily screamed, edging backward, her eyes wide with terror. "Jasper Green," he hissed, his voice echoing with malice. "Your curiosity will drown you all. I have waited, starved for voices to call my name." Laughter erupted from the shadows. It was a sound of anguish, of betrayal, and more. "You thought to summon the last remnants of lost souls? Stop it. You're lying." Trevor shouted, shaking his head violently. "You can't force us to be afraid." "Can we stop this?" Emily cried. The weight of the world seemed to press down on her. Jasmine clutched her bleeding arm, feeling each pulse throb with pain and the unnerving echoes of despair. The shadows writhed like a sullen beast, hungry and relentless. "We have to finish what we started. We've got to listen." With a deep breath, she tore herself from the grip of fear, barreled toward the book, and shouted, "Emily, read the next line. We fight for them. Do we really want to fight for a ghost?" Ethan questioned, standing paralyzed. "Whether we want it or not, they're part of this now." Jasmine yelled, her skin prickling as the darkness closed in around them. The air grew thick with anguish, binding them, shrouding them in fear. "Now, Emily!" she cried, pushing through the suffocating grip of dread. Emily's voice shook as she complied. Once I was released, I would become your nightmare, your reality. My story intertwines with your fate." The air around them twisted painfully, changing from oppressive silence to an overwhelming roar. Shadows began to scream, a swift onslaught of terror that clawed at their senses. But in that chaos, Jasmine felt a flicker of resolve blossom within her, a hope igniting stubbornly against the darkness. "Fight it," she repeated, bracing herself against the encroaching dark. Then the shadow of Jasper lunged forward, eyes aflame with malice and desperation. "You will regret this trespass." And with those words, darkness swallowed them whole, a void of whispers and screams, thrusting them into an abyss where only one truth remained. What awaited them in the depths of Jasper Green's story? In that pitch-black silence, something stirred. Something even worse. The abyss swallowed them whole, a suffocating void thick with malevolence. The temperature dropped sharply, a biting cold that clawed at their skin. Jasmine stumbled forward, hands outstretched, grasping for something, anything, to anchor her amidst the unseen terror that lurked within the darkness. Trevor's voice rang out. "Jasmine. Are you okay?" "Not really," she gasped, the words hissing through clenched teeth. The residual pain in her arm throbbed harder, a constant reminder that whatever they unleashed was real, too real. "Where are we?" Emily wheezed, her breath spilling in shallow bursts. She felt disoriented, as if the very ground beneath her was shifting like quicksand. A faint shimmer broke through the black, twisting shadows into grotesque shapes that writhed and danced. Jasmine swallowed hard. "I think we're still in the house." But a shiver cascaded down her spine. "But it feels different, wrong." "How can it feel wrong if we haven't even moved?" Trevor's voice barely masked his growing fear. But there was a weight in the air, a sensation that pressed against their skulls, like the tingle of dread before a storm. "It's Jasper," Whitney gasped. He's shifting things around us. He wants us to see." In a flash, the darkness withdrew, pulling back like a veil. They stood in a dim-lit room that reeked of decay. The walls were covered in fading photographs, faces twisted with anguish stared back, their eyes wide with betrayal and despair, as if held captive by Jasper's will. "Please, no." Emily screamed suddenly, breaking down. "This can't be real." Her hands flew to her head, fingers tangling in her hair. "It doesn't matter," Jasmine said, trying to project strength she didn't feel. "We have to find a way out. We need to confront him." Before she finished, shadowy tendrils snaked out, grasping at her feet, pulling her deeper into the ghostly room. "Help!" she screamed, resisting with all her strength. "Hold on." Trevor lunged, trying to grab her as the shadows attempted to drag her into their clutches. "No. Get the book!" Jasmine yelled, panic surging through her. "It's the key." Trevor turned, an instant decision etched on his features. He dove toward the book still lying open on the floor. As he ripped it from the dust, the room shuddered violently. The photographs twisted, morphing into grotesque shapes, their mouths distorted in silent screams. "Read something, anything," Jasmine shouted over the chaos. Holding the book tightly, Trevor glanced down at the pages. "This one, it talks about a sacrifice." "What? No." Emily objected, eyes wide in fear. "Shut up," Trevor snapped. "Do you have a better idea? This might stabilize him." That's when the silhouette of Jasper lunged forth again, his features igniting with fury. "You think sacrifices will save you? I crave more than that. I will peel away your lives. No. We won't let you." Jasmine gritted her teeth, a fire igniting inside her chest. "You think you control us? We'll fight." "The shadows are my power," Jasper bellowed, his voice turning from a whisper to a monstrous roar. "Once I relinquish my hold, I unleash darkness upon you all. Your souls are mine." Light flickered briefly around them, an otherworldly glow illuminating the room. For a moment, Jasmine thought she saw a door, a narrow exit behind Jasper. Hope pulsed fiercely. "Trevor. Read." She snapped, each ounce of energy focused on piercing through the suffocating dark. "All right, here goes nothing." Trevor shouted, his voice caught in the swell of chaos as he began reading aloud. And the shadows shrieked, but what they unleashed when Trevor read those words, they could never have foreseen. What terrible price would they have to pay to escape this nightmare? Trevor's voice surged, cutting through the cacophony of despair. The sacrifice must bring balance. The room pulsed, shadows swirling frantically as if in defiance of the words. A flicker of light ignited, illuminating Jasmine's surroundings briefly before the dark swallowed it whole again. Balance! Echoed Jasper's voice, a mocking cadence ringing in their ears, taut with menace. You think you can barter with me? Nothing can balance the scales of this darkness. With every syllable, shadows thickened, their presence growing more pronounced, reaching for them like starving hands. But Trevor pressed on, heart racing. One must be lost for many to be free. What does that even mean? Jasmine yelled, desperation clawing at her throat. Don't say that. But Trevor's fear was replaced by determination. Maybe this is the way out. The way to free them. As he found his footing, dark tendrils flicked around him, hissing, fool. They won't be freed by foolishness. They will only be among the lost. Read. Emily urged, her own voice wavering in the oppressive air. If it's what we need, if it can set them free and us too. Trevor's eyes sparkled with a blend of fear and defiance. No. We will not sacrifice anyone. He shouted, fiercely contradicting Jasper's fervent whispers that hung in the air like a heavy fog. Do you think you can hold back the storm? Jasper roared, swiping with his ethereal arms, shadowy energy crackling around him in violent bursts. You are mere children playing in a darkness you can't begin to understand. Jasmine felt a rush of courage. Your power is built on fear. We won't become victims. The shadows faltered briefly, uncertainty rippling through their twisted forms. What do you know of power? Jasper hissed, hesitant yet intrigued. You're powerless against the past. But then, Emily stepped forward, eyes fierce, her voice embedded with strength. Maybe we can't change what has been done. But we can choose how this ends. The shadows paused, seeming to shiver at the sudden declaration, the flickering light from the book bouncing back like a halo around the trio. But one sacrifice must be made. Is one of you willing? No. Jasmine found her voice again, stronger, booming against the malevolence. We won't let fear dictate our choice. Silence. Jasper bellowed, rage contorting his features, the room trembling with power. As shadows surged, Jasmine summoned all her strength. We stand together or not at all. We all know pain and we can elevate it into hope. With bolstered resolve, Trevor picked up the book. This isn't just about a name. We need to tell their story, to reveal the truth. Every breath laced with fear, he spoke again, louder, we seek freedom through remembrance. He read aloud from the pages. Jasper grinned suddenly, time suspended, and the air expanded. No! Screamed Jasper as a blinding light erupted from the pages, engulfing everything in its radiant embrace. Colors filled the fog, warmth slid through, pushing back the dark. Every scream echoed, but now transformed into a chorus of release. As memories become stories, shouted Jasmine, helping lift their heavy load. We give you strength. We give you hope. Gradually, the shadows unraveled, their sweeping anger peeled away, revealing the struggling spirits caught in Jasper's thrall. Faces flickered into clarity, and they held on to Jasmine's words like lifelines. Let them see. Emily urged as a swell of radiance cascaded from the book, enveloping them all. Jasper roared, but his essence began to fray, unraveling like threads of a forgotten tapestry. You think this light can save you? I will drag you with me. But their unity countered the dark. With each name spoken, each story reclaimed, light mingled with their anguish, burning brighter. We rise with them. Trevor shouted, certainty flooding his voice. The figures around them twisted, tortured souls gathered strength, echoes of their names resonating through the room, rising against the overwhelming shadows. "We are not lost, nor afraid," they cried, merging with the light. Jasper's laughter faltered, giving way to a frightened shriek. The book pulsed again, each name echoing true: Jason, Jenna, Trevor. Light lanced through the dark, illuminating the library, revealing the truth under the weight of their harrowing tales. "Let us reclaim our legacy." As the last intonation reached a fever pitch, a blinding light screamed forth, shattering the oppressive hold of darkness. When the illumination faded, Jasmine opened her eyes wide. They stood in the library, only echoes of anguish remaining, the oppressive shadows gone. The sun streamed through the windows, life re-establishing itself. The book lay closed, glowing gently at the center of the room. Breathless, Jasmine turned to her friends and to the figures of lost students now smiling, as if released from bondage. Hope swelled in her chest. "We did it," Emily gasped, almost in disbelief. "We freed them." "You were right," Trevor said, hugging Jasmine tightly. "We fought for them." As the fog of despair dissipated, a newfound serenity sank deep, wrapped around them like a warm embrace. Leaving the chaos behind, Maplewood High breathed light, finally unshackled from a past steeped in darkness. "Here's to new beginnings," Jasmine said softly. As the three friends stepped through the doors into the sunlight, they felt lighter. The burdens of fear lifted. Empowered, they turned to one another. "Let us make this graduation count." And with that, a fresh purpose cut through the lingering shadows, allowing them to embark on a journey, together. Now, here's the moment. If you love this thrilling story and want to hear more, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive tales we have in store. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Seriously, it makes a huge difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending, because we want to hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends. Trust me, they will thank you. Only true fans know the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.